Welcome back, everybody. New CIF guidelines over heat are already impacting local athletes. The new law went into effect in July, and it states that high school athletes can't practice or play games if it's too hot outside. There are different categories depending on where the school is located. This means different areas have different temperature rules, but some coaches are already saying it's having a big impact on their athletes.
Right now, each school has these wet bulb readers. It factors in heat, wind, cloud cover, and you get a reading on it. And there's different categories of what you can and can't do. Now we have you here at 6 o'clock in the morning to practice because we're trying to beat the heat. Then Wednesday nights we go at 7 o'clock. I mean, we're in this up and down, it's not really fair to them.
The new heat policy will apply to all sports here in California and across San Diego. And here to discuss further on the policy as well as how it impacts high school sports and challenges that might be faced with it is the lawyer in blue jeans, Justin Isaac from the Lawyer in Blue Jeans group. Justin, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So break this down for us, because we were talking about different categories, what this means for athletes, especially here in San Diego.
Yeah, and not to get too precise, but it looks like about 86 degrees, 89 degrees, 92. Those are the three zones that if it's above that, you can't play, basically, even if it's water polo, which is in the pool. Kind of doesn't make sense there. But regardless, it applies to all sports across the board. And essentially the goal is the health and safety of the kids. That makes sense. We all agree. But it seems like it might be a little bit difficult in some of these East County schools or where it gets really hot. I remember I went to Valhalla and it got really, really hot sometimes, and it wouldn't cool down until late at night. And so if you have to wait till it gets below 89 degrees before you could play, you might be playing at 8 o'clock, sometimes 8:30.
And the coach we just heard from prior to introducing you to everybody, he was saying that there's so many different factors that go into play, whether it's wind or I look at whether you're playing on a turf field versus a grass field. Yeah. The turf field heats up a lot quicker. Yep. So how are coaches and parents going to be able to, who's regulating this?
Well, great question. CIF is usually the one in charge of this, working with the lawmakers. And I think there's going to be some tweaks over time, because there's certain things that just, you can't really factor that in. And this is, it's a new law, so as new laws go, we'll have a bit of a learning curve on how.
The school year just started.
Yeah, and it's been hot too. So we'll figure out kind of how it's going to work as we go along. I have a feeling though that there's going to be some changes, maybe some different schools put in different zones, because most of the schools, it seems like, are in zone 1. Right, and in some East County schools versus like a coastal school, there's a completely different temperature there. So that really doesn't benefit the East County schools, because they're going to be most affected by it too. So, or at least the hotter schools, Escondido, Northeast County too. So it's going to be really interesting, and I have a feeling that a lot of games are going to get pushed back or canceled.
Or they're going to have to play early in the morning or super late at night.
Yeah, or practices have to start at 6 a.m. and before the heat starts. And so then it comes to a point where you're asking kids to be at school at 6 up until maybe 6 at night, or waiting till 8 o'clock at night to just start practice. And they've already been at school since 7. So that has the opposite effect of what they want, which is looking out for the health and safety of the kids, but now we're kind of pushing them to the limits.
Right, and then you look at the bigger schools or even the smaller schools that have multiple sports. Some people aren't going to be able to practice or play those games, as you said. So there's going to be a lot of different scheduling conflicts when everyone kind of looks at, hey, our games are getting canceled. It's 87 degrees instead of 86.2 degrees or what it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I played sports my whole life. I travel the East Coast or Texas, and it's 100 degrees when we're playing. But I do see that they're trying to protect our kids and have safety for the children that are out on the field. I do understand that. So what kind of comments have you received from parents?
Well, parents are already stretched as it is too when they're dealing with their kids and their schedules and trying to juggle multiple schedules if you have multiple kids. My older sister has 3 kids and 3 boys who play sports all the time. So all she's just an Uber, right? And if you have one that gets something canceled, that affects all your scheduling for something else, or gets rescheduled, and it just is an absolute nightmare. But I think a lot of parents will agree that it is nice for the kids and making sure that we're keeping them safe. We don't want people dying of heat stroke. I think legally speaking, maybe the county is trying to preemptively ensure that they don't get sued for people falling over from heat stroke during fall sports. It happens in football a lot where, unfortunately kids have died in the past too. And so this is their way to make sure that they are doing whatever they can to protect those kids and protect themselves, maybe from lawsuits too. Not trying to be cynical in any way, but it's really, protecting kids. And does this go too far? I think some people would say so. I think some parents have said so. That coach just said too. And but I think we're going to see some changes in order to the rules. Okay, well, we'll have to wait and see. The school year just started, so sports are just beginning as well. So thank you so much for coming in. We'll see how this plays out, and I'm sure we'll be chatting once again. Absolutely, thank you. Of course. Have a great rest of your weekend. You as well.